Welcome to the Den of Episodes. I'm Marlo Fox, and this is your cozy little corner of the internet. Grab that cup of coffee or tea, settle into your favorite cozy spot, and let's head back to the Highlands. Monarch of the Glen, Season 2, Episode 5, originally aired February 4th, 2001. The episode opens with mannequins. That's right, not deer, not sheep, not Hector yelling, mannequins. Honestly, if you walked in without any context during this episode, you'd think you'd walked into a haunted department store. Archie and Duncan are in the library dressing these dummies up in old Scottish clothing because Archie has yet another one of his grand save the estate schemes. This time he's trying to impress the Heritage Committee with a historical display about Highland laird life 100 years ago. Hector's horrified because apparently they've been raiding his wardrobe to dress the mannequins. One of them is even wearing his Savile Row suit, which to Hector is basically a war crime. Now, if you don't know, Savile Row is a street in London famous for suit makers. And not just any suit. We're talking ultra high-end suits that could cost anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000 US, maybe more. They're referred to as bespoke suits, which means they're completely custom made for a specific person from scratch. It's a very British term that comes from to be spoken for, meaning the cloth was reserved for you. A true bespoke suit means a tailor takes many body measurements, a unique pattern is created just for you. You choose fabric, lining, buttons, pockets, lapels. The suit is hand cut and often partly hand sewn, and there are multiple fittings and adjustments during the construction. It's the opposite of buying a suit off the rack. So you can understand why Hector might be a little upset that a mannequin is wearing his precious Savile Row suit. While he's doing this, he's also furiously marking up everything in sight with ultraviolet ink. He's become paranoid that people are stealing, and he's going to get to the bottom of it. Archie orders Duncan to hurry up and light the fire, and this immediately turns into a disaster because moments later, Duncan emerges absolutely covered in soot. Not a little soot, full cartoon explosion soot. The room is destroyed, and Duncan looks like a raccoon that's been working in the coal mines. And with a tiny little smile, he says to Archie that he probably should have used a bigger sheet. The way Duncan said that line with a smile made me think he was saying it like the line from Jaws where Roy Scheider says, "You're gonna need a bigger boat." I could be wrong, but that's how it seemed to me. Then Hector spies an old van driving toward Glen and instantly goes into paranoid mode. He declares that they're casing the joint and unleashes the dogs. But surprise, it's Geordie. You may remember Geordie from Season 1. He's Molly's bookie friend who had questionable judgment but surprisingly good charm. Molly is delighted to see him. Hector absolutely is not. Geordie used to drive a Rolls Royce, and now he's driving this beat-up old van. I'm sure there's a story somewhere there. Molly warmly invites him in, and Hector mutters that the man needs horsewhipping. Meanwhile, Archie is sulking with Katrina over the soot catastrophe. His grand historical tableau is ruined, and Katrina points out that maybe his idea wasn't all that brilliant to begin with. Instead, she suggests he create a Victorian croft cottage display, something focused on ordinary Highland life rather than wealthy lairds. A croft is a small rented farm. It would be rugged, focused on survival more than profit, and maybe have a few sheep and chickens, maybe a cow. And Archie, because he's incapable of doing anything halfway, immediately decides to completely reinvent the project within 36 hours. As they're talking, along comes Fergal carrying flowers for Katrina. She immediately points out the flowers technically belong to the estate and hands them right back to Archie, who immediately walks off in a huff. Back at the house, Lexi is making sandwiches while Duncan awkwardly asks her out to to a rave. Now, some of you might not know what a rave is. It was something really popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. A rave was basically an all-night dance party with electronic music, flashing lights, questionable fashion choices, and approximately 17 glow sticks per person. Mind you, I never went to a rave myself. Lexi's not impressed with his invitation at all. Duncan insists it'll be fun, while still visibly covered in soot around the eyes, making him look ridiculous. Then Geordie reveals the real reason he's come to Glen Bogle. He lost everything in a card game to a man named Murdo. Everything. His money, his house, even the Rolls Royce. Molly instantly wants to help him. Hector, meanwhile, leaves the room claiming he's going to count the spoons. Clearly, he doesn't trust Geordie as far as he could throw him. Elsewhere, Archie and Golly inspect an abandoned cottage for the new heritage display. Golly thinks tourists, or punters as he calls them, will love it because it feels authentic. But the real focus of the scene is Katrina. Archie insists he doesn't care about her, which on Monarch or the Glen usually means the opposite. He starts ranting about how Katrina's more interested in Fergal anyway, and eventually bets Golly 20 pounds that Katrina and Fergal will get it together before the week is over. Golly takes the bet immediately because Golly understands people far better than Archie does. Then we get one of Molly's sneaky little undercover missions. She heads into town wearing this dramatic hat and scarf combination like she's in a 1960s spy thriller. She tracks down Murdo and learns Geordie's debt has grown from 3,000 pounds to 4,000. Murdo is polished and charming, but you can sense that he is a snake as soon as he appears on screen. Molly talks him into coming to Glen Bogle. Back at the cottage, Archie, Duncan, and Fergal are trying to clean decades of grime, hay, and sheep residue out of the place. Fergal asks Archie how to impress Katrina. Archie tells him that she likes trees more than flowers. Here we see Archie accidentally helping another man romance the woman he loves. At dinner that night, the contrast between Geordie and Hector is hysterical. Hector is gone full formal Highland aristocracy. Golly is in full kilt playing the bagpipes, and Lexi is serving dinner. And poor Geordie, he's overwhelmed by the amount of silverware. Hector asks if they don't have cutlery in Kilmarnock. This is a subtle knock at where Geordie is from that may escape you if you aren't familiar with Scotland. Kilmarnock is a larger town in southwest Scotland. The stereotype of it is gritty, economically struggling, and unfashionable. Then Molly reveals Murdo expects repayment this week, 4,000 pounds. And suddenly, things take a serious turn, especially when Molly quietly looks at her diamond heart necklace later, clearly realizing that she may have to give it up. Meanwhile, Fergal plants Katrina's favorite tree outside her cottage, a silver birch, using Archie's own advice. And Archie's jealousy begins slowly simmering like a kettle that's about to explode. Lexi starts flirting heavily with Fergal, and she even invites him to the rave, only to discover he assumes she means to go as a group with Katrina. She's furious because she had no idea that there was anything going on between he and Katrina, so she goes to Duncan, yells at him that he didn't let her know, and Duncan snaps right back at her and tells her that she does this exact same thing to him all the time. And I was proud of Duncan for sticking up for himself. Then Molly decides she's going to challenge Murdo to poker. Murdo arrives at Glen Bogle in Geordie's stolen Rolls Royce, like the world's sleaziest Bond villain, and the poker game begins. Molly pretends she barely knows what she's doing, but nobody buys it for long because she keeps winning. At the croft, we have Katrina and Archie, and Katrina's looking around and she sees how beautiful it is now that it's been restored. The fire is going, and she tells Archie the tragic story of Kilfetter. He used to live in the croft, and he was a matchmaker who lost the love of his life because neither of them ever truly said what they felt. And the camera practically screams, "Archie, Katrina, please communicate." But of course they don't. Back at the poker game, we learn Molly is secretly an extremely skilled card player who apparently has played at Monte Carlo in Las Vegas. Turns out there's more to Molly than just being a sweet Highland hostess. But Murdo is cheating. Hector slowly figures it out after Geordie mentions that Murdo sees things others don't, and that's when we have this light bulb moment. You can see it on Hector's face, and it's great. Meanwhile, Fergal confronts Archie about Katrina, and Archie accidentally makes things worse by mentioning that he and Katrina once spent the night together. What he's referring to is back in season 1, they were going somewhere, and I can't remember where, but the Land Rover broke down and they ended up spending the night in it. It was all very innocent, but Fergal doesn't know that. He storms off looking for Katrina. When he finds her, she somehow manages to make things even worse when she mentions that they had dinner together one night and almost kissed. Katrina, girl, why? What good would that do? Back at Glen, the poker game reaches full drama mode when Molly risks everything to win her necklace back. Murdo reveals he has a monster hand and Molly loses. Murdo demands payment immediately and brings in his bodyguard, Stitches. But then Hector makes his move when he walks in, pretending to write a check, and instead he whips out an ultraviolet light and reveals all the cards have been marked. Murdo's been cheating the entire time using special glasses to read the markings. Stitches immediately turns against him, calling him trash, and demands that he return everything to the people he's stolen from. And Geordie finally gets his Rolls Royce back. I love that Stitches turns out to be an honorable guy. He and Golly even shake hands as he's leaving. Afterward, we see Molly crying. She's horrified by how close she came to losing everything, and Hector comforts her. You can tell he really adores her. The Heritage Committee loves Archie's croft display and approves the grant. Even so, Archie loses, because in the final moments of the episode, Katrina and Fergal kiss out on the road while Archie watches from a distance. And then Golly walks up beside him and casually opens his wallet and hands him the money they bet. He says to Archie, "Like I said, you lose." Because Archie didn't just lose 20 pounds, he lost his chance to say what he really felt. And that's it for episode 5 of season 2. And if I'm being honest, this wasn't my favorite episode. I kind of found the whole poker game storyline tedious, and also I didn't really love the bit they put in about Duncan asking Lexi to go to a rave and then her asking Fergal. I don't know. I just didn't love the episode, and sometimes it's going to be like that. And now, friends, it's time for animal sightings. This week's episode featured Glen usual supporting cast of livestock and dogs. First up, we had the pack of dogs going after Geordie's van. And we had sheep coming out of that abandoned cottage, which you can only imagine what a mess that was before Fergal and Archie cleaned it up. And finally, we have an honorary mention, which goes to Duncan, who spent the first part of the episode looking like a raccoon that fell asleep in a chimney. And as for my own personal animal sightings here at the Fox Den, out on the pond we have new arrivals, 6 goslings. I stumbled across them quite by accident when I was walking by the pond, and I came upon 2 of the geese. And all of a sudden, 6 furry balls started moving, and I realized, yep, they've arrived, and they're adorable. So I'll keep my distance from the geese, lest I get attacked. I've also had, a couple days ago, 4 egrets landed on the pond all at once. That was exciting because normally I just see one at a time. And an egret is a large white bird, long legs. They can be about 3 feet tall. They're really cool. And I have also seen 2 or 3 times this week a great blue heron, and they're even bigger, about 4 feet tall. And it's fun to watch them through the binoculars as they hunt and stab at the water for the poor things below. But it's been a lot of fun watching all the birds. There must be a veritable buffet in the pond because it's really bringing the large birds in, and I love it. And now for across the pond translations. The first word we had was tableau. It was used in reference to the scene Archie was trying to create for the Heritage Committee. It's basically a staged visual scene meant to recreate a moment in history or tell a story. So Archie's historical display with mannequins and costumes was his attempt at creating a living museum exhibit. Now I have this moment of fondness for when I was a kid and we had to make something at school called, was it a diadrama? Okay, I knew that didn't sound right. I had to do a little research. It's diorama. That's what we did. Diorama. And I remember doing that in, I don't know, maybe it was the 2nd grade, 3rd grade. I don't know, but it's a small 3D scene that you make inside a shoebox using paper, clay, paint, toy figures, natural materials to create animal habitats, historical scenes, and so on. And I remember being totally fascinated by the whole idea of making a diorama. And I wish I knew what mine had been. I have no clue. I only have the memory of how amazed I was by the diorama. And I don't even remember what anybody else did, but we all had to do these shoebox scenes. I wonder if any of you out there ever did that. I'm sure you probably did. Next up on the list is croft. We already went over that word, but this is the across the pond translation sections, and we must do it again. Croft is spelled C-R-O-F-T, and it's a small rented farm, usually found in the Scottish Highlands. Crofters traditionally lived very modestly and worked small plots of land, often in pretty rugged conditions. Then we have punters, and that's spelled P-U-N-T-E-R-S. In Britain, punters can mean customers, tourists, or paying guests. So when Golly says the punters won't get their feet wet, he means tourists. And the last word on the list is rave. As I mentioned earlier, it is basically a giant all-night dance party with electronic music, flashing lights, sweat, glow sticks. And at this time of my fox life, that sounds absolutely awful. And that rounds out another cozy trip to the Highlands in the Den of episodes. As always, please remember to like, subscribe, or leave a comment. If you'd like to reach out to me, I'm at thedenofepisodes@yahoo.com. Any of the above would make my day. Well, friends, I'm off to do some more bird watching. So until next time, I'm Marlo Fox. Keep the kettle on and the episodes rolling.